Now you might think Clark is out having a little wander in the woods and going to do one of his usual videos. Not this time. I have recently had the opportunity to visit the Chu Chi Tunnels in South Vietnam, not far from Saigon, or Ho Chi Minh City as it is now called, but the locals still call it Saigon. And for those of you who are not aware about the Chu Chi Tunnels, this was a underground tunnel system that was built by the Viet Cong guerrillas in the Vietnam War, and they were fighting against the opposing forces, which were the Americans, the South Vietnamese, and there were other nationalities involved as well, the Australians, New Zealand, and quite a few more. From these tunnels, the Viet Cong would emerge and just cause absolute grief for the Americans and the other forces. So the Americans obviously wanted to get in there, sort them out, but it wasn't that easy. So I've had the opportunity to go, have a look, see what went on there, and as I said, I'm not intending to make a normal video, but I got back and realised I had enough clips, put something together and let you have a look at some of the things I saw. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand you over now to the guide I had, and he'll explain a little bit about where we are and what's going on.
Nowadays, it used to be a headquarters of Americans and the South Army right here. Yeah. So you know that how about this morning our driver he took us this direction northwest, you know, on the way. And the new road. Here we are. Right here.
Yeah.
Yes. But you can see how about the red color, the West John area in the war is where guerrilla quota, tunnel area here. But how big lucky for the local fighter in the war, because Americans when they came here, they didn't realize where were the tunnels exactly. So that reason why they built the base here. I told you if we carry on right the end of the road, we will arrive to this former American base. Yes. But they not only built this base, but a smaller base. Here, another base here. They could realize about somewhere around here there will be the VC tunnel. Yeah. So we can imagine that every day from 1962 until 1972, 10 years, how many thousand American soldiers from a different bay they came into this area to look for the tunnel. Yes.
So we're ready now to go on our tour. I thought we'd be going off to have a look at some tunnels, which we will eventually. But the first thing the guide tells me is, would you like to go and try some of the weaponry they used in those days? I'm thinking, like what? He said, anything, rifles, machine guns. Wow. Yeah, I'm quite excited about that. I haven't fired a rifle since I was in the army, and it was so long ago I can't remember that far back. So, all excited like a kid in a candy shop, we're off. Anyway, when we got there, I really wanted to have a go with the general purpose machine gun. But the bullets are costing 50p each, and this thing fires like X amount of hundreds every minute. So I had to modify my expectations, so I decided to go for one weapon from each side. The M16 rifle on the American side and the AK-47, which was used by the Viet Cong. So we'll have a quick look at that, and then we'll move on to what we went to see next. Ha! Got one! Well, that was exciting. Really enjoyed that. Could have spent a lot of money there if I'd had it to spare. But you've got to think, it's in a game. And we've got plenty of our British forces who will tell you it's not a game. Because I would not like to be the one having to poke my head out from behind a tree or out of a trench with somebody firing one of those at me. We then went on to have a look at how the Americans went into the area and searched for the Viet Cong. Now, this wasn't as easy as you might think. For a start, they were in jungle, and I can tell you now, I was out there when it was just before the start of the monsoon. It was 40 degrees, humidity about 75%, and the minute you stepped outside your air-conditioned hotel room, which unfortunately these guys didn't have, you were drenched to the skin. So carrying kit, weapons and everything you needed to go into the jungle to see if you can find these guys was not a pleasant experience. For those of you who may remember the Rambo First Blood film, he was being pursued by the military and the police, and he set up man traps to delay their pursuit basically. Well, the Viet Cong were very good at this, and what we're going to have a look at next is some examples of the traps that they set in the ground. And believe me, you wouldn't want it to fall into any of these. Let's take a look. Yeah. So there you've seen the sort of thing that could be waiting for you. Now you might be thinking, Clarky must be getting old because he's taking a stick with him everywhere. The stick's there for me to demonstrate what the Americans came up with as a solution. So they wanted two things. One, they didn't want to fall down any traps or step on any mines, and two, they wanted to be able to find these tunnels. So they used the stick, probably a longer one than this, and the point man would go ahead, testing the ground for the traps, and if they found a tunnel, you would hear a different tone. I don't know if we can hear it on here. But later you'll see my guide searching for me in the tunnels, tapping the ground, and you'll hear the hollow sound when he's over the top of the tunnel. So we're going to go down the tunnel. Well, we're not going to go down a real tunnel initially. It was a real tunnel, but for the tourists they've made it bigger. So the normal tunnels, as you'll see later, you would have to get down as low as that to walk through, and your head would be touching the roof. For the tourists, because unfortunately the Viet Cong and the Vietnamese people are generally small, slight people, Europeans can't fit down them tunnels. So they made the tunnel a little bit bigger, raised the level, so you can actually walk like that through it. It gives you a bit of the experience. So we'll take a look at that. Excuse the noise in the background. We did get there before anybody else, but slowly one or two parties caught up with us. So you can hear I think it's a South Korean party and an American party behind us doing a bit of screeching. But don't worry, they're safe, they just don't like the dark. Okay. Okay. Exit. Okay. So I've been down the tunnel, come out, I've got rid of my stick because, I mean, I'm in the forest in the UK and there is no man trap, so I don't need a stick. And I don't need one because I'm not old yet, sort of. So I'm wandering along and my guide says to me, would you like to go down a real tunnel? Oh, yeah, no problem, love to do that. So he shows me one or two entrances which make me think, what's he think I am? Fox? Rabbit? And eventually we get down one of these holes and I tried to walk like he did and he walked like that. I couldn't do it because my tummy was so fat it pressed against my diaphragm and I nearly stopped breathing. So that's why I'm on my hands and knees crawling like that. And the tunnel's about this high, so you're scraping your head along the top all the time. Now the Viet Cong who live down these tunnels, they wouldn't just be crawling along them, they'd be carrying their equipment, their weapons, food, water. So I wanted to have a look at this. So the next clip you'll see is me down one of the actual correct size tunnels.
What's your name? Oh, look at that.
Now, it's high enough to... Now.
Yes.
My goodness. Wow. Oh, that's amazing.
Now we have the problem to get back out.
You're right. You need my help?
No, hang on.
Um,
Yep.
You alright?
What? Nearly. Wait a moment, stop.
okay,
stop.
okay.
Okay.
Anh Rị giờ ông khó lên đó một mắt thăng bằng á, rồi để tự ông lắc đâu đó.
Anh có nhiều khi cũng hoảng.
I am too fat to be a Viet Cong gorilla.
Oh yeah. How about you walk?
I'm just going to show you a couple of photos. The Viet Cong had everything they needed underground. They had mess rooms, they had hospitals, they had command centres, but most of these aren't accessible and safe now. So what they've done for your normal tourist, I suppose, is they've built simulated ones on the surface. So they're dug into the ground, but they've put roofs over them. But if you can imagine going into one of these, you'd be crawling out of a tunnel. I mean, take this picture of a room there with the fire going nicely for cooking on, and to the right you can see a hole coming out the wall. That would be the tunnel coming in. The interesting thing about these tunnels was, you'd think, how can they stay underground all the time? You know, they'd suffocate. Well, they had very ingenious ways of ventilating these shafts, and one of the things they used to do was there used to be a lot of termite mounds about, and so they used to camouflage their air holes in these termite mounds, so that anybody passing or using photography couldn't really see where these air holes were. And it was the same with the fires, the smoke. What are you going to do with that? If you keep it in the tunnel, you're going to die. If you let it out, the enemy's going to see the smoke going up. They designed a system of baffles that just slowly dispersed this smoke. And when it came out of the ground, if you look very closely at this video clip, you can see the smoke just softly drifting out of the ground. And this way it dispersed at ground level and nobody could see it with air reconnaissance or anything like that. So they were very clever people, and it took a brave man to go in there and sort them out, and they were brave men. I think the first nationality accredited with going down the tunnels to see if they could find these people and destroy the tunnels and destroy them, obviously, was the Australians. They argue about that with the Americans, but the historical facts seem to show it was the Australians who went down first. And these were brave men. I would not want to go down one of those tunnels armed with, as you can see from a couple of pictures I've got here, a pistol and a torch, and maybe some explosives to blow the tunnel. Because if the Viet Cong knew you'd found an entrance, they would just simply booby trap everything. And they took booby trapping to the extreme. They even put poisonous snakes and spiders down there in traps ready for you to kneel on, stand on, put your hand on. So a lot of people went down them tunnels and didn't come back out. And all I can say is full respect to them, because having been through one of them tunnels, I would not want to go down there knowing that just round the next corner there was a Viet Cong with a machine gun, a hand grenade, or a cobra. Any of those things would frighten me. So that's more or less a quick look at some of the bits you can see there. There's a lot more to see. The area is vast, and you need a guide to explain everything to you. So that was that. And putting the joking apart about getting out the hole, well, yeah, getting a bit fat there, but for the guys who were really there, it was no laughing matter. Now, I was going to finish now, but then the guide said to me, he said, you know, they used to have a secret bunker in Saigon where they stashed loads of weapons, so that when they had the offensive, the local supporters of the North Vietnamese could come out, grab these weapons and attack the Americans from the rear. I said, oh yeah, right. He said, I said, well, where do we go? He said, well, come with me. He said, we'll go back, Saigon. He said, and if you go buy a couple of beers, they've got a little bit of a cafe thing set up at the front of their house. And if you buy a couple of beers, they'll let you have a look at the bunker. So that's what we're going to do next. So we'll go there. Here's the picture of the house. Well, I said the house. This is a picture of the seating area where you can get a beer. And then, as we watch the video, all I can say is, I went where I wasn't told to go, but I just followed my nose. And watch out for the man asleep in his bedroom. It's very quick, because when I realised where I was, I got out of there pretty quick and the camera's waving about a little bit. But yeah, have a look and see if you can spot the man in bed.
Ở đây đi. Secret bunkers in Saigon, so close to the headquarters of the South in a wartime.
Bọc miệng nè. Got a ladder here. I just missed this sign off there. Ladders. Okay, I'm going up the ladders. Come in! Up the ladders!
You took the ladder?
Yeah!
Upstairs?
I'm up the ladder! I've tunnelled out. Just come up there. Up the ladders. So, come out in the toilet. And that's me where I'm going. Must be a way down here somewhere. I'm here. Well, that's it. A little bit of a glimpse into life in the Vietnam War. All I can say is for the people that are out there, it was horrendous. And one interesting thing about the guys who went down those tunnels, the Americans would drop what they called Agent Orange, which was a chemical designed to kill everything plant life wise. But what it actually did was cause deformities in people, especially children, newly born children. And unfortunately, the guys who went down them tunnels, because the ground was quite saturated with stuff, they also suffered the after effects. So that was a consequence of the Americans dropping something so toxic, and they ended up seriously debilitating and in cases killing a lot of people from their own side who went in on the ground afterwards. So on that cheery thought, I'll say goodbye until next time.